That one, the one that's in your packet, the formatting got a little bit messed up when we made the copies and everything else, but you should have a hard copy that should be, the glitch was corrected and the formatting should be correct.
Okay, thank you.
What page 4 is Joe?
Firefighter Anthony Ramirez was nominated by Battalion Chief Rob Johnson for the Elks Club Firefighter of the Year. He received the award. So Chief Lorenzen and Anthony and his whole family had a great dinner up at the Elks Lodge in Redwood City, and he was honored as Firefighter of the Year for Park Fire, and very, very well deserved. If you've ever met Tony, he actually was a cadet with us, and now he's at, I don't know, he's been here 12 years or so, and he runs the cadet program. So he's giving back to the program that brought him into the organization, which is outstanding. We have a few incidents I'd like to talk about, and some I'd like to add also. I think everyone's aware of the horrific event that occurred in Texas. We had 6 Task Force 3 members deployed to the flooding. Most of them went to Kerr County, Texas. One, as an IST member, went to New Mexico. Incidentally, only 2 of those 6 are Menlo Park Fire employees, though. We have 2 civilians, a battalion chief from San Jose, and a dog handler firefighter from Mountain View Fire. So they are in Texas. We're getting regular updates. They are working in the field. They've been pulled out a few times due to, additional flooding, unfortunately. They were partnered up with Texas Task Force 1 and I think a team from New Mexico. And it's basically a nationwide response at this point. Incidentally, that was an EMAC request, so it wasn't through the typical FEMA channel. And EMAC works as a state-to-state request. So Texas, didn't run through FEMA, that inevitable delay with the administration and bureaucracy going up to federal government and coming back down. Texas called California and did a direct request, and that's how our mission-ready package for human remains detection was deployed to Texas.
And just curiosity question on that, did FEMA actually deploy any teams?
Yes, Texas 1 was activated, and I believe they have a number of type 1 and 3 USAR teams there now on the federal system. And then, but the 4 California, Riverside City, Los Angeles County, Orange County, and Menlo Park Fire sent those K9 packages.
Yeah, thank you.
Those same dogs had just returned from the fireworks explosion in Esparto in Yolo County. So it was interesting that they get used fairly infrequently, but they've actually were activated twice. And that was an OES request. We have now a total of 5 line medical personnel deployed to the Trinity National Forest for the Green Fire. The document says 4, but we added another one, which puts us at 6 line personnel, which is basically our agreed upon maximum with our District 10. We don't want to send more than 6 of our line personnel out because the impact on everything else here. We are still poised for any kind of a USAR response or any engine company strike team. We can still do that. We also had an engineer from Task Force 3, San Jose Fire Department, had a significant structure fire 3 days ago, I believe. And they had reasons to believe that there were missing people in there, and their dogs detected human beings in the building. So we activated an engineer from the task force for 1 day, and then again yesterday to go down there. As they're delayering those collapsed buildings after fires, there's a little bit of a science to it. You don't want to pull something off that may cause a reaction on the other side. So the engineer kind of guides them through that process. So that was another thing that just occurred, is one of our Task Force 3 civilian structural collapse engineers just responded to the city of San Jose. Obviously a participating agency on the task force, so those relationships were already built. The USAR chief that was down in San Jose is a good friend, and also the TFL on our team. So all those relationships were built. It was a very smooth operation. Chief Wordinger, who I wish was here because he has some items on the agenda tonight that I'm going to try to cover. He was deployed recently to a fire he's on the 6th Rivers National Forest. So he took the OES Type 6 engines from the county, and they're up in, they initially checked in Ishipishi, which is just downstream of Hoopa on Highway 96, near the town of Orleans. And they're working on those. They had 15,000 lightning strikes on those 3 or 4 forests up there, the 6 Rivers, Trinity, Inyo, et cetera. So that's why Chief Wordinger is not in attendance tonight. He's a strike team leader. He may try to get on the Starlink. He's in the field. He's on night shift, so they're on the line, heading out to the line right now. And that wraps up the fire chief's report, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for people?
I just have one. These outstanding staff reports, one is internal controls policy, electrification, follow-up of airport expansion, and water rescue. When are these could be available?
I'm not sure, I don't wanna mislead you, that was on the chief's report as a draft from Chief Lorenzen, I'm sure we'll get that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I did ask, but I didn't,
Chief Lorenzen just keeps the list on the chief's report of any outstanding items, so it's just outstanding, but he's wanting you to be aware, he's still,
they're on the radar.
it's on his radar.
Okay, thank you.
Director Scott, I can speak on one of the items, which is the internal controls policy, so it's actually more related to the project that, the board actually approved during the budget process, which is, the internal controls assessment project, so we are actually currently starting that project, so we're gonna have a kickoff meeting this Thursday on that. And, I'm assuming, in a couple of months, the report's gonna be ready and we'll present it to the board.
Thank you, money person.
Any other questions for Chief? No? All right, next item is to approve the consent calendar. Is there any items anyone want to pull off? Chuck, yeah,
I'd like to pull number 3 and number 4.
you want to pull item number 3 and number 4?
Like to make that motion.
Okay. So, Rob, you have some item?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve 2, 5, and 6.
I'll second that.
Motion been made to approve 2, 5, and 6,
And I second it.
and it's been second. All in favor? Roll call.
You want to roll?
Director Bernstein, I'll do roll call.
Roll
Director
call.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Crowley,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye. Motion been made, so we'll start off at item number 3, which is the accepted treasury report for the month ending May 31st, 2025. Chuck?
Yes, I'd like to refer to page 25 of our packet. It's the second page of the actual report.
Okay.
I'm looking at the chart on page 25. The general fund, and I'm curious about the revenue items. With our amended budget, we were looking at other operating revenue of about 6.6 million. And the current year to date, we've collected 10.4 million. So we're almost $4 million kind of over the budget. I mean, it's good news. I'm not complaining, but I just wondered what understanding, I'd like some understanding of why we're $4 million.
Yeah, sure. So basically, really the main difference between the amended budget, like that $4 million difference as of May is due to 2 things. One is with investment gains and losses, which it's regarding our interest rate. So when we did the budget, in 24-25, there were assumptions that were made. And the assumptions that were made at that time is of course we're gonna have 4 or 5 decreases. So that's one thing, but then again, it didn't happen. We only had 1 cut, 1 or 2 cuts, during that 15 year. So that actually contributed a lot to the actual investment interest that we actually received. Second thing, part of this is also with regards to the deployment claims. So for the deployment claims, you usually budget really only what we think, based on historical information, what we think we would actually receive. But for this particular fiscal year, we didn't actually budget any revenue or deployments because we don't know exactly what's gonna happen. Sometimes it's only a few $100,000, sometimes it's $1 million. But this is or as of this fiscal year, or as of May, we kind of doubled already, all the deployments that we had in 23-24. So again, that contributed to the increase in the revenue that we're seeing right now. So those are the 2 major things that's causing that huge gap between what's budgeted and what's the actual right now for the other operating revenue.
Weren't the deployments about 2.5 to 3 million of them?
Correct, so deployments as of May is about like $2 million like already. So out of, that $4 million difference, like 50% of that is due to deployment claims, and 50% is, for the investment interest that, we did not anticipate because of the funds.
Is there another way to budget for that? So since in theory deployments are supposed to be a zero net cost, would it be possible to have a different fund for deployments where the revenues and expenses kind of offset each other, or some other way so that we don't have these big, how shall I say, the fluctuations year over year for
Yeah.
something that's not really meaningful?
We track it separately in a different, fund, like, the deployments, but when it comes to their, not fund, but different program. But, for the actual fund, if you want to create, a new fund just for, like the deployments, it actually would not be, in compliance with, some accounting standards, because, for us to actually create like a new fund, it has to meet like certain requirements. And with regards to this, like it's roughly like $1 million, 1.5, or maybe at a given time it's $2 million. And it's a net cost, so it's basically just a cost reimbursement, program in a way. So it's too little to actually, like, the expenses and the revenues are actually too little to actually warrant another like fund. So that's why, for that reason, really, it's really just lumped into, the general fund category. But, this fiscal year, the budget that you approved, actually, we did some changes with, how we budget, the revenues, from the deployments. We actually analyzed, what we have received, like in the past couple of years, and, kind of like see, hey, what's the average, and, what, do we think it's like the minimum, that we would receive, or, the average we would receive in any given year, and we incorporated that into the budget. And with that, we also actually look into other agencies, what they're doing, and other like fire districts, it really depends. Some they really don't budget it at all, like the revenues. Some they do like, an average like an 80% of like the prior year. Some they only do 50%. Some they don't budget it at all, but they just, do an amendment once, they have like, better information like mid-year or at the end of the year. So it really varies on, how like other fire districts or fire agencies, do their budgeting when it comes to deployments. But I think, what I can really tell for sure is, doing as tracking it in a different fund and presenting it as a different fund wouldn't really be a good way to do it, because it wouldn't really comply with certain requirements for, gas fees. So.
And I'm not asking for you to do an accounting, but presumably there's roughly $4 million in additional expenditure somewhere. How many different accounts would we have to look at if we really wanted to understand what all the additional expenditures were that supported those reimbursements?
For the expenditures, for the most part, it's basically over time, like it's personal costs, like, I would say like 90% of the cost, like, for the deployments are personal costs. Some are like, operating costs are incidental. So, when it comes to actually, tracking like the cost, like we have like certain like, codes where we can actually track like which are like the overtime codes that are actually related like for deployments. So if we want to actually track like, what the cost of, the deployment really is, it's embedded currently with our budget, but we can certainly do that as well. So.
You do highlight it, Elena, on page 28, in special revenue fund in the footnotes. You actually talk about the expenditures, and you have a $2.6 million number there.
Oh, that actually, Director Bloom, is actually different. Because the deployments that I'm talking about for the general fund, those are actually CALUES. The one in the special revenue fund, those are actually like FEMA deployments. FEMA related, like, deployments.
Okay, so the ones that are in the other operating, that's revenue associated with the OES deployments.
Correct, that's
And
correct.
then all the FEMA stuff goes in the special revenue.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't have a good answer and so forth. It's just trying to look at that and say, it jumps out at you, and then trying to understand what it is and so forth. I understand the difficulties, and obviously we have to comply with GASB and so forth, so that's not an issue. If nobody else, I'll move to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll second that.
Motion been made, second, Michelle?
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crowley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Ayes have it, so we'll move on to item turkey pool number 5 or 4.
I wanted to pull this one just because, I noticed something on here that I've never seen on one of these reports before. I'm talking about page 81 of the packet. It's the attachment A of the report. I really have two comments. One is, in two cases, we paid to do something and it says unable to charge out of district land. That's obviously just a mistake that we made. We went and mowed weeds that weren't in the district.
Mark, are you familiar with that entry, Gage?
Yeah, so there was a miscalculation on the parcel numbers, it was really right on the border. It's been addressed, it was a mistake made by one of our fire inspectors. It was literally right, the parcel was right next to it, he didn't realize that particular parcel, with the naked eye, you would never know that was. The lines of the borders get kind of funky, for lack of a better word, in certain areas. And there was that parcel, he was assumed that it was ours, and when we went to the county website, it said it was ours. But then after we did it, then we found out that it actually belonged to not us, it was in a different county.
Okay, well, I have a comment, and obviously we can't force a collection where it's not, but it says unable to charge, and I would quarrel with that. We can certainly send them an invoice, and I think we should, and they can choose, they can choose not to pay it. And we can't do anything about it, but I wouldn't just give up on the money. These two items are trivial, I realize it's down below that I was more troubled by, where there's one $2,000 item. And it says unable to charge, and I'll make the same comment.
We can change the wording, I will send out a bill to attempt to collect, but like you said, if they don't wanna pay, you know, at least we can make an effort, that was probably a poor choice of wording.
Yeah,
Can I suggest on that, though, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion without checking with council as to whether we are legally entitled to bill for that. So just, I don't think we should debate it here at the board, but I don't think you should jump to the conclusion of, well, just send them a bill.
Yeah, I will reach out to
And
council.
Just get an answer.
I was gonna reach out afterwards about this anyway, and I
So
agree,
you're gonna
it's
take it
not
offline.
beautiful.
Okay,
But you said that the county records were incorrect too.
So we're going off county records, which.
Yeah, which should be reliable.
Yes, I agree, they should be 100% reliable. Often we find there's a delay in updating records, so we'll send mailers out to people and we receive back. I sold this property 2 years ago, it hasn't been updated on the county website. So it's gotten the cat and mouse type of game for chasing some people, or the right property owners down. We're gonna definitely address it next year, so we won't have the same issue.
I know, but that's not our fault. I mean, so we're getting charged for something that the county hasn't really correctly input into their system when they're trying to collect property taxes, for example.
Yes.
and my point here was obviously there were weeds that needed to be done, they would have had to pay someone, and so.
Yeah, and that one for $2,000 specifically was along a trail. Off, right, literally on the border, and come to find out, the path is literally on the border. We cleared both sides of the path. One side was ours, the other side of the path was somebody else's, and it was a very long portion which needed to be cleaned away, which is used by a lot of people. So they did the whole entire path, and then after the fact, we found out that that side of the path was not ours.
Well, I agree with the point, that you made, that we should check the legal aspect of it, but if there's no harm done in saying, we cut your weeds, pay us back, and so forth. I just don't want our taxpayers making a gift of $2,000. that's my only comment on that. If there's no other comments, I will.
Rob, before you go there, Rob, I have a question.
Yeah, Gage, on the, what do we use, like, was this in one of our cities of jurisdictional responsibility, or was it an unincorporated area of the county, or?
This particular one was, East Palo Alto.
So do we contract with, let's say, the city of East Palo Alto, or do we have a separate contractor that does these procedures for us?
So for clearing it, we use a separate contractor. We go out for bid every year to get a contract for a cleaner. Since I started, I don't want to jump too far ahead because we're gonna change some things for next year, but
Just what it is now.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going at that point?
The package includes, it's Timberline free service.
Right.
Yeah,
Is
Right.
the
That's
contract.
the vendor.
That's the vendor who
It's
does
in
the
here, it's
service.
listed item
It's
by
the.
Yeah, but my question is, why are we using a contractor when can we use like Public Works of these, particular cities or even in the county that's part of our fire district to use them instead of using a private contractor? That's what I was trying to get at, Gary.
I mean, they definitely could be, but what I've realized, just not jump too far ahead, is there's a lot of duplicate efforts out there. I met with East Palo Alto Code Enforcement earlier this, like a month ago or 2 months ago. And they're doing the exact same thing we're doing, going out sending notices to people with over
Okay.
weeks as well. So I've noticed there's a lot of duplicate efforts, so we're gonna try to fine tune the system for next year, so we're not duplicating efforts.
Okay.
Because they're
Thank you,
getting a letter from East Palo Alto Code Enforcement and a letter from Menlo Park Fire Protection District, it's both saying the same things. I want to try to get a collaborative effort between everybody, so we're not doing extra work.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move to accept the support.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded by Virginia. Yes. Michelle, can I get a roll call?
Director Bernstein.
Aye.
Director Blumer.
Aye.
Director Crawley.
Aye.
Director Solano.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye. Motion carry. We're moving to item number 7. Yes, item number 7, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the fire chief to execute a contract with Greensburg Development and Construction Company for the procurement and installation of the emergency generator at Fire Station 77 in the amount of 200.
Consent calendar?
Oh, I'm
No.
sorry. Yeah, no,
Agenda
you're right.
Item 7. in the regular.
Item 7. Okay. Chief, you want
Was that all the consent calendar rules?
yeah, we're
Yeah.
on that number 7.
We're under the
Numbers-
regular agenda.
Regular
Due to
agenda.
the OES $519,000 contract amendment that was discussed in finance.
Yes.
So the state of California has elected to fund approximately a little over $1 million every year. And over a 4-year schedule, they will select 2 of the 8 FEMA teams in the state and give them 1/2 of that, which is why the number is just slightly more than $500,000. OES is trying to assist us with covering the expenses for the MOBEX, which is a mobilization exercise, which is a requirement. The staff report goes into further detail about how we do that. We no longer do a big 3-day event. We do it in a modular fashion, which is more effective and efficient as far as costs. We don't need to have 120 people on a clock for 72 hours. We do it in little pieces, which does check the box for FEMA. So essentially, OES is going to help us fund the MOBEX. The money will actually go further than the cost of the MOBEX, so the leftover funds will be used for other essential training for the task force members. So this is essentially asking for the fire chief to execute the agreement to accept that, those monies from the state of California Office of Emergency Services.
Any questions from the board? Chuck?
I have a question in a number of things here that are happening. Given that this is with Cal OES, but it also behind Cal OES is FEMA somehow. And I'm wondering if we take any risk with FEMA not honoring its contract, given the cutbacks that are being mentioned by the president and so forth. Do we have any concern about not getting paid? We go out and do this, we send a bill and they say, no, we're not doing that anymore.
This is a contract with state of California.
Yeah, but it's didn't FEMA fund it?
So FEMA gives us, I believe the last figure I saw was roughly 1.3 to 1.4 million dollars in funds for the task force. This would be the state of California also contributing towards the costs of the MOVEX exercises. I understand your question, sir. I have a personal opinion about it, but I don't know that that's like a district position or something like that, where we should be concerned about the future of FEMA and the funding of the team.
Well, I don't wanna discuss the future, I'm talking about the present. Is there any possibility, is what I'm asking, or do we think there's any possibility that we're not gonna get reimbursed?
May I interject? John Wordinger's on the Zoom. Do you want, and he's raising his hand to speak?
Oh, that'd
Yes.
be wonderful. Yeah, John had intermittent, he's on a Starlink out in the woods, so if we can hear from him, he is definitely the expert.
Give me just one moment.
Hello, directors. To Director Bernstein, to answer your question, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
The monies that have been provided to us are secure. So the monies out of the 24 grant, the 23, the 22 grant are all secure. We don't have to worry about them not honoring their agreement. I think that was the latest question I heard. And then the primary question, maybe a better way to explain it is that we're actually on a 3-party agreement between the state of California, Cal OES, the Federal Emergency Management System, or FEMA for the National Response System, as well as the fire district. So it's a 3-party agreement, and Cal OES has always traditionally given us funds to support the task force. However, they've never given us substantial funds, and this is the first time that Cal OES has given us substantial funds to support the task force.
Thank you.
Ready, Chip?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Not, entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt a resolution authorizing the chief to execute agreement 0690-A2510154452 with the state of California Governor's Office of Emergency Services in the amount of $519,000 to support the FEMA USAR team mobilization exercise and training for Task Force 3.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rob. Any other call for questions? If not, Michelle?
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley? Aye. Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to item number 9. 8, I'm sorry. Dyslexia is kicking in. Which is adopts a resolution awarding bids to PB Loader Corporation. Is that you again, Chief?
Yes, thank you, Director. I'll kick it off, and if Chief Wordinger is available, he can expand or correct anything or expand upon it. This is part of a larger effort to replace some of the large tractors, the big diesel tractors that we use for deploying the USAR team. So Chief Wordinger and Chief Lorenzen have had a strategy of phasing out some of the older equipment and surplusing them, and then replacing with more modern, CARB compliant, DEF compliant, and vehicles that are more easy to find parts for. So this is essentially asking to purchase something that's already in the 25-26 budget. It includes all the add-ons, so you're not gonna see another request to put radios in the vehicle, and that's all in, this is basically the entire thing here. And it will lead to the request to surplus a 2014 vehicle, which is at 383,000 miles. Understandably, that's not necessarily the lifespan for a over the road long haul trucker would get out of a vehicle, but it's also 11 years old, meaning that it's difficult to find parts, etc. And again, this is basically just a larger effort to modernize that fleet and get the big rigs that we use for the USAR team more modernized. And if there's any questions, I can take them, or if Chief Wordinger, if you're still on, if you want to expand on any of that.
Can you hear us, Chief? You got his hand up?
The Six Rivers is a very, if you've ever been to Happy Camp or Hoopa or Orleans, the trees are all 150 feet tall, so finding a satellite,
So are the
Tom's
hills.
probably scaling a tree
Like
right now.
the
trying to get
Texas
to the
Hill
top of it.
Country,
I think
There we go.
can you hear me?
Yep.
yes.
I think Chief Coyle has pretty much hit the nail on the head. First off, these vehicles do traditionally last more than the $100,000 traditionally or as accepted by the fire board. This particular vehicle has 383,000 miles, I believe, and it's 11 years old. I do know that we have had issues with trucks of this vintage and them being down. And I do know this particular truck, I believe, was one that went, did not get us to the Palisades fire straight through. We had to stop and get a mobile repair unit to come out and fix our truck. Luckily on that event, we were in California. The other truck that we have already put to surplus went down on us when we were on our way to Florida, and it was like a 7 to 8 hour turnaround, and thankfully we were able to get parts while we're there. So it's the modernization of our fleet is pretty important when we consider we're taking our firefighters across the nation, and minutes and hours count, not days, weeks, and months. So that's what I have, unless there's further questions.
I'd like to expand upon it. In the staff report, Chief Wordinger correctly refers to policy 1111, which is our vehicle replacement rough guideline of 100,000 miles in 10 years. The surplus policy that the board, I believe, approved, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, last month or in the last few months, the board approved the new surplus policy. It will be going into the policy and procedures manual to replace the policy that Chief Wordinger mentions in here. And in that policy, it does say that it's a guideline and it will not apply across the board to all vehicles. Obviously, we don't plan to replace diesel pushers that are capable of 1 million miles and replace them at 100,000 when they're just getting broken in. So that's already been addressed in the new policy that's been approved at the board that just hasn't made it into the policy manual yet. It takes a little while to meet with the labor groups and everybody else to add that policy in there. So if that clarifies anything else.
Any questions, board, Chuck?
Yeah, I want to address the need to review the policies and reiterate a request that I had a couple of years ago, and I mentioned it during budget time. I think the district needs a fleet management person to be doing this. These are big numbers. I don't know beans about trucks or anything, but from a little research that I could do on the internet, I researched both these Columbia tractors and also the Cascadia tractors. And they said it was routine that a normal tractor wouldn't need any maintenance for about 750,000 miles. And that 10 years was a normal time, and these are getting up in the 10-year range, because we don't use them the same way a trucker would use them. But that it wasn't unusual that these things had 4 million miles on them. And I think our policy is clearly out of date and just not applicable. So to say that it's a guideline is fine, but I don't even think it's a good guideline. I think it needs professional review.
May I quote from the updated surplus policy?
Yes, go
Because
ahead.
Chief Lorenzen specifically put a small paragraph in here to address that exact concern. Is that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, after we talk about the criteria of surplusing vehicles, there's a paragraph that states, these criteria are intended as general benchmarks, not strict rules. Each vehicle's replacement needs will be evaluated annually, considering its condition, performance, and overall cost effectiveness. And when I spoke to him about this, he said that was specifically added in the new surplus policy to cover those one-offs like the big rigs, airboats, and other things that might not make sense to adhere to that 10-year, 100,000 mile mark. I don't know if that goes far enough, but that's why he put that in there.
Robert, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution awarding bid 250,000 to PV Loader for the purchase of the 2026 Freightliner Cascadia tractors.
Motion
I'll
been made.
second that.
I think Rob
Oh,
kind of stumbled into
okay.
where you.
I don't think he seconded it.
You may take it, Virginia.
No, go ahead, I didn't hear you.
Rob, go for it.
Go for it, Rob.
Number two,
How?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Director Solano will second the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, second, is that okay, Rob?
It's fine.
Okay, all right. Motion been made and second, all in favor, Michelle?
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crowley?
Aye.
Director Solana?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion is carried. We'll move on now to item, proposed agenda items. The first item is
Oh.
to,
No, you have one more regular.
The emergency policy.
all right, thank you, guys. Oh, we're missing everything tonight. Yes, discuss the emergency preparedness policy, item number 9. I guess, Chief, were you planning on making a or?
Yeah,
We just- Go ahead.
I can kick it off.
Okay.
This was the E-Prep policy that has been up and down a few times, and I believe that the E-Prep committee met and reviewed it with some of the revisions that Chief Slice put in place. And it's before you again, I believe it's just to make comment on or to review.
Yeah.
And we have our 2 resident experts sitting there.
So, we'll kick it to the board. Is there any comments, questions that you have about the policy?
We had this last month, right?
Yes, we did.
So
And-
are there any, because there weren't any red line changes that I could see in this. Is it the, were there any changes that you made, Gage?
There
I
was
didn't,
Quite a
maybe
few
part of the,
changes from the original one we had. This
well,
was-
from the one last month,
Yes, there,
okay.
The red line one, we reviewed it during the last E-Prep meeting.
right,
We did not go 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And we all determined that we all agree with the changes, so what I proposed in front of you today was the finalized draft of the changes the E-Prep committee made.
that
I
was
know it
based,
would have been nice to have had the other one too to compare here.
I don't think, Virginia, at the last meeting, they actually presented the full policy. They just
They
presented the
presented
draft,
like a part of it.
just
One-
one paragraph.
One
Yeah.
paragraph.
And Previously,
Yeah, where
this,
we.
this
got-
this to me looks like you've made
The whole
edits
thing.
off of what was started a couple years
Like
ago.
literally like
And
last July.
Generally speaking, I think this captures the spirit of what's been discussed amongst the board, the prior E-Prep committee, and it sounds like the current E-Prep committee, with the benefit of the new chief's eyes on it. I think it's a reasonable place to get a rubber stamp as a draft policy so that the group as a whole can start focusing on implementation of some of the items to support the policy.
right,
I'm not
Correct.
disagreeing, I just would have liked to see because there have been different iterations, that's my.
I just read it
This-
quickly because I haven't
Yeah,
this
that's
is-
true. I
2
can see
years,
what
so-
you- I know,
kind of cover to cover and I
right.
mean, I could come up with nitpicks of things I would word differently or say differently, but I think this policy captures the spirit of what was intended around the E-Prep organization and around the community risk reduction unit.
Rob?
Yeah, thank you, Gage and Heather, for finalizing what we had talked about in our committee. And as Gary said, it's a great starting point, and to add some of the items that we had spoken about, maybe in the future, you know, with our different volunteer groups that we support. And what I liked, and I'm sure Robert will agree with me, a lot of the discretionary decision-making that you as the fire marshal and Heather is running the program has relative to make it better. So thank you for doing that. But Robert, you're the chair of the committee. I see.
So, what the board have received over the last 2 months, first we introduced the purpose of the statement.
Yeah.
And then last month, we introduced the policy statement. And this, what you have before you now is not only those 2 statements that were approved by the board, because there were changes that were made last month, so those changes were made. Unfortunately, we didn't have, there was only a couple minor changes on the policy statement. But the full policy program with objectives, goals and objectives is before you right now. So we got this is the last piece that we want to get the board approval. So now we have a full kind of policy direction so that the staff now can go and implement this with this as a plan. So that's before you right now, that's why I still stamp draft, so that you can kind of have, if you had a chance to take a look at it, read to see if there's any further comments regarding this piece, then if there's no, I think Chuck got his hand up. You got something you want to say? Chuck?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not quite as generous toward this as other people seem to be. As nice as I can be, I think this is a pile of gobbledygook.
Oh, my.
Basically teaches, it really addresses the bureaucracy of emergencies, which we don't need more addressing. It's what we've been twiddling our thumbs about for the last 5, maybe 10 years. It doesn't address really anything of importance here. It focuses on these caches, which have been major disappointments. They're typically out of date, the batteries don't work. But worse than that, the people that need to use them can't even get in to get them because they're behind locked gates, and the people who use them have no keys for those locked gates, and they're worthless. We used to make jokes that we needed to recruit for search more people who were adept at breaking and entering, because it was the only way to get the caches that they needed to operate. And this does not address at all, not a single word about alerting systems. And that's what we really need here, is a alerting system. We see it in Texas, you know, for almost no money at all, they could have had alerting systems, and hundreds of people have died because they didn't have that. And we keep doing that same thing over and over and over again. And again, I don't know when people are gonna wake up. We need to have a catastrophe. We need to have, you know, 500 people die, and then we're gonna have a meeting where we talk about something serious. But anyway, I'm gonna vote against it because I just think it's a waste of time. This policy does nothing for preparedness, disaster preparedness. So.
Any questions about any comment? I just want to kind of maybe my mind, I am getting older and I do forget, but I think 4 years ago, we had an opportunity to begin, and I think we may have instituted putting in an alerting system up at the dam that's up in Atherton. And then we started to institute putting an alert system over in East Palo Alto at Station 2 for earthquake and other emergencies may come up. But that particular idea in East Palo Alto got put on the shelf and got canceled. So we never did move forward with that. This particular document is just outlining certain tasks, certain goals and objectives that the Emergency Management Division or department want to try to achieve. And part of that is there's always going to be clarifications on an advancement as systems get into place. I think the notion of thought of caches, that's a more administrative decision, what staff will take, and I think do have procedures about how to handle those caches. And I hope that we can kind of hear from the chief about that. If you and Heather are here to talk about that a little bit.
About the cache.
I just want to introduce it. I'd like just to make the comment that we have our 2 professionals here that I think do an excellent job. Obviously, Gage is relatively new, Heather's been here for a little while, but I know, excuse me, Chief Slice has some really great ideas on the caches and maintenance of those caches. And I do understand that having a cache and then forgetting about it or not maintaining it, and the food items and the water and whatnot expire. I don't want to say the name of the employer because we don't do that, but at Gage's prior organization, he implemented a really outstanding program there for the caches and maintenance. And as far as the alerting goes, we do have the dam siren, we do have the portable loudspeaker, LRAD. We also have, you know, what we do is we communicate, the county does most of the notifications, right? Because what we don't want to do is have individual small jurisdictions, which we would be one of, putting out potentially conflicting or not, non-aligned information. You know, there's as many, tragedies that occurred due to lack of, notification. There are a number also when notifications went out that were not in alignment. Black Saturday in Australia, they had two different jurisdictions evacuating people in opposite directions on the same rural road. And a few hundred people got burned over in their vehicles because it wasn't coordinated. So for Menlo Park Fire to put out alerts that are not in alignment with the county would probably cause as much confusion as it would be a help. We have RAVE, which is the back end of the forward-facing SMC alert. We have the old Zone Haven, which is now Genesis, which we did use in this county for evacuating a significant portion of Upper Redwood City and Emerald Hills during the Edgewood fire. So we do have those things in place. It's a coordinated effort amongst the county. Heather and Gage are intimately involved in that. They go to the meetings, they go to the trainings. We do have, you know, larger tabletop exercises where we get together and establish a version of a JIC, a Joint Information Center, so that we are sure that we are aligned. And even bigger than that, we need to align with Santa Clara County. We would not want to evacuate our people down Arastadero southbound while they're evacuating people northbound to get away from the same fire, because the fire is not going to honor jurisdictional boundaries, right? And we could have a real mess and have people stuck in their vehicles if it's not coordinated. So
See, not to cut you off, all that information is great. And part of what I think the gap of information, since I've been on the board, is that there haven't been a real space and time for the board itself look at and discuss that wish list of areas that it want to pursue as a board, because there's operational where once you turn it over to the staff, there's operational stuff, and theirs is based upon policies and procedures that the board put into place about what it really see as something that for the district is needed. And I think hopefully that this can be one of those areas of items that will show up. And I think it is on our preliminary agenda for our study session of areas, things that we want to see happen further within the district. Because I think there's a lot of things we can talk about, but I think until staff hear from the board, that's one of the critical items that we want to accomplish. They're going to run off with their own, what they already got before them. So I think all of what you're saying is helpful, but it's also, I think the board needs to hear it in a more structured way to totally focus on that particular item. Gary?
Yeah, so I can agree. I don't think that the intent of this policy, even going back a couple of years ago, was ever to solve world hunger when it came to disaster prep and alerting and messaging and caches and everything else. It was always intended to put the framework in to enable the staff to go do the necessary work. And one of the key provisions in here is to come back with the budgetary request to fund the needs to solve these problems. And I think we have a really unique opportunity here with a new chief leading this effort, a new set of eyes on it after all these years. No disrespect for the prior chief, but I think a big task like this has always benefited from a fresh set of eyes and some new thinking on it, combined with Chief Lorenzen's attention to it. But this policy is doing exactly what it was intended to do, which is lay out the framework under which staff can now go work on the actual solutions to these problems, come back with the funding requests, and come back with implementation requests back to the board. And I would just encourage staff to be aggressive about bringing their ideas back to the board for funding and implementation, because I do think there's a shared desire across the board to get on with the process of implementing some great ideas. We just haven't necessarily known what those ideas are or had good solid recommendations to proceed with them. So I think the policy is doing exactly what the policy was intended to do. And I don't know if you're looking for a motion on it or not, but because I think it was just a discussion, but I would just leave it.
I want to hear from you, if you don't mind, Chief, speaking a little bit to.
So to address Director Bergstein's issues, what you brought up about out-of-date caches, unable to get into the caches wherever they are, you should be on a locked gate. Those are all long-term issues that I have personally been involved in, and we're trying to address those. The board did approve, monies to be spent on some Connex boxes. And the Connex boxes that I'm building are gonna address all those issues that you just brought up. About people being able to get to them, be able to get into them, be able to access them. We have a whole master, kind of a training program when the caches get installed, and where they're gonna be installed. As far as the local CERT teams being actually, will be there, train on the Connex box, everybody is aware how to get into it. Make sure all the supplies are good, and pretty much addressing all those concerns that you have with, right now we have a few trailers. Like you mentioned, with supplies in it behind a locked gate, it's very hard to get those to where they need to be. So with these Connex boxes that the board's already approved the budget for them, and we're currently, we're working on it every single week. I just ordered a bunch of supplies for it. Heather's working on getting the first box built, and we're gonna build it here at Station 1. When we get done for the first prototype, I would like to invite the board to come out and actually look at it, to get feedback from the board on what we can do to even make it better. I have a fresh set of eyes of what I think makes it more accessible and relevant and not stale. But also to have 5 more sets of eyes looking at it and giving your input as well, like, hey, it would be really great if it had this, or if it had this. I'm always open to feedback. And we wanna make these things great. We want people to actually take our design. I want people to go, look at Menlo Park Fire District's doing. I wanna copy what they're doing. I want them to copy our design and implement it across county-wide. I want ours to be the shining star, and I want every other county to copy us. So that's my goal.
Thank you, Chief. I think if there's no other questions, comments, we're gonna, regarding this particular policy statement, purpose statements, and overall goals and direct goals and objectives. If there are any further comments about what's written right here, please make it known, and we will integrate your comments or that you have into this particular document, because this is going to be a living document. This is going to be a working document until it changes of how we will approach disaster preparedness here within the district.
Robert,
Yes.
you want Cage to be the kind of the coordinator, if we have any comments to add, to send them to him and have him prepared, so when we meet next time for the emergency prep committee, he'll have whatever the board wants us to add to the draft here.
Well, I think that sounds good. I don't want staff to be inundated by comments. If it's pertaining to this particular document, then they can be the recipient of that information. But if it's something going beyond what's in this particular document right now, I think it really needs to go back to the committee. And we should take it from there, and the chief. Does that make sense? Maybe not.
So is there any direction for staff for this document or until the next prep?
Is there any comments regarding this document that you want to give to the chief right now? Chief Paul right now regarding this document?
Tell us how you're gonna implement.
Well, no, I think it sounds good. I was looking at an older version, way before you got here, but I had written a lot of that actually. It's just a total draft. I just wanted to make sure some of that was incorporated in here. We had discussions since then too, so that was the reason I was asking about a red line copy. But I think, I agree with Gary, it does capture the spirit of it, but I am interested in why Chuck, doesn't think this really hits home in terms of it sounds like the application of the policy. I mean, this is a policy, but are you coming to refer to how this policy would be applied in real life situations?
May I reply?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I basically think that it doesn't hurt to have a policy, I just don't think it does any good. I think what we really need to do is, one, have a disaster plan, which we do not have. And two, we need an alerting system, which we do not have. And since it doesn't deal with, to me, the two major issues we should be working on that right away, not worrying about, oh, we have to get along with Redwood City and make sure everything's all right with them. I think we need to do it for our own district, that's our job, that's all we can control, so that's what it's missing. A plan, a disaster plan, and an alerting system, there's not a mention of it.
Any other?
And you have the alertings.
We have one, that's not a system, we have one machine that we bought.
But the board did not vote on that when that came up, so you can't fault the situation right now. Right, that we voted back in 2021, or when 2020, whenever it was.
I was sure at the
Yeah.
time, but I know what.
Yeah, that we voted, it was 3-2 not to have a system. So it's just kind of hard to say, okay, well, I mean, if you want to take a look at bringing back another alerting system, that's different, but that's independent of this policy, in my opinion.
I don't believe that's the case, we bought the one machine to do a major job, it was portable, we were gonna take it all around
It
the
was
district
experimental.
and find out how far it would travel. That would tell us how many alerting stations we needed, and once we knew that, we would know the process, we would know the price of the whole system. That's what we were gonna do with that machine, and we've done nothing with it, it just basically sits in the closet.
I think that it would be a great item to take up in our study session as a board. Add to what's already there to begin to
You have a system.
to have a system to
Versus
approve,
one
to
thing.
having a system. Right, we haven't throughout the district, not just in one area. I think we can't, it's not appropriate to bring that conversation up now, but I would hope that someone, if not that someone, I will put it on our list of items to explore at our study session so that we can get to the point that Chuck is trying to make. So there's no action item, nothing to be taken on this. It was pretty much discussion. If there are any other comments or no comments, we can move on to the next item.
I'll just thank Gage and Heather for all the work in the ECAP committee that y'all have done. I mean, it's come a long way since I first wrote the
Sure.
first draft, like 2 years ago, when I wrote it, and Gary.
Okay,
Can I make one
Okay.
last comment?
sure. Yes.
I don't wanna seem, I didn't respond to what you said. I think what you're talking about to do is a good thing to do. I've never heard it before, no one had ever articulated it, and it's not in the staff report. And so I don't want you to think that I don't think those things should be done. If they can be done, and if they are done, I'm gonna be a lot happier about this, Chris.
I prefer amendment action. So I've been slowly letting it out that we're building these, but at the same time, I would much rather have it done being built, like, hey, all right, we're gonna go out and tour it, we're gonna go look at it, and then, ooh, and actually see it in real life. One thing to talk about something is another part of actually doing it. So I'm a doer, and I wanna do it and have it done before I even. Because sometimes it's hard to explain what's up here, to give you the whole vision, so I'd rather actually have it finished and then show the board and you get your input.
Just so we don't rewrite history, this was this prior board meeting. The Conex boxes, and that idea as a replacement for the trailers. It was discussed in response to the exact same dialogue we just had tonight. That the trailers are locked up, nobody can get access. And at the prior meeting, what was discussed is we're using this new Conex box approach. We're training certain members on how to deploy and use those and have access to them. So this gets kind of old revisiting history of things that have actually been discussed. And then looking at staff and saying, why are we just now hearing about it when we've heard about it before? So I think we should embrace the policy, it's a forward-looking policy. Let staff go off and do their job and implement it, and come back with ideas and funding requests, which is what the board should be focused on, is providing them the necessary tools to implement what needs to be done with the district. And I don't think we should spend more time on the revisionist history or a study session about what's happened in the past and the vote on the little trailers running around town. We've debated that and redebated that plenty of times here at the board. And some people choose to remember history one way and some people choose remember history a different way, it's a total waste of time. What we should do is empower the staff to go do their jobs, and we as a board should accept their funding requests, analyze those, provide them the funding to get something done.
And use
And
this
quit,
policy,
and quit talking about it.
and use this policy as the foundation.
Yeah, I agree with the let's go do something, but
Yeah,
like, do something includes, let's stop talking about all this policy and the revisionist history. Let's talk about what staff wants to do, what money they need to go do it. That's the last comment I'm gonna make.
Okay, you got the
So we're gonna
last,
read,
you got
that
the
was the
last,
discussion
you
from
got the
Gary.
last comment out, so.
So without an action item on there, is there any, just leave this as is, leave the draft
That's what
watermark
I
on there?
would-
Yes,
Okay.
the way it is, if the board had discussed it, they looked at it, I hope that everybody read it. And came to their own idea, that it's okay or not okay. So I think everybody's relatively okay with it, so I think we just keep moving.
I think we're on item 10.
Yes. Item 10, which is the proposed agenda items. We have one item from Director Bernstein to discuss improving rapid emergency medical services. And if I'm not mistaken, it's part of an area that I think it would fall into based upon area of EMS. A suggestion for the topic discussion, the discussion session to begin to talk about. But Chuck, maybe you had some other ideas about that?
Well, it's timely that we're doing this actually, because I know people read it differently, but as I look at the fire response analysis that the chief gave us, we are exceeding the 7-minute guideline that we are required to adhere to. And, but I think 7 minutes is too long anyway. I think that people who stop breathing, who have heart attacks and so forth, need response much faster. We're talking about by 7 minutes, most of those people are dead. Whereas we really need 3-4 minute response times for some things. And I think the district should be looking at options for getting equipment to the sites of need more quickly. And there's a number of options that have been mentioned. I mean, drones, for example, motorcycles were discussed, narrow wheelbase vehicles that can go on pads and so forth. And I don't want to propose something, I don't have a budget for it, but I'd like to have a discussion at the board level about what we could do to get a paramedic at the scene more quickly. And possibly even be looking at the idea of creating a paramedic force that was in addition to the force that travels on fire engines and fire trucks. Again, I don't know what the best way to do this is. I know that we have been wedded to having this platform of tools, but at the key times of the day, those platforms can't get through traffic in a timely fashion. And even though we can arrive on the scene with all the tools possible, if the person's dead, the tools don't matter. And so anyway, I'd like to see us have a discussion of that.
So, Director Bernstein, would it be, from your perspective, if the item that's on the iPad, you should have a document before you right now that Michelle passed out regarding what's some suggested study session topics. And one of the things that the Chief Lorenzen had put down was to talk about EMS. And what can we, as a fire district, do differently to improve EMS services to our community? To have that, I think that, was that you?
Yeah, so I think the first part of that captured the discussion I had with the chief on it, which is what can we, the fire district, do differently to improve EMS service to our community? It's a direct relationship to what Director Bernstein says, but I don't think it has much of anything to do with the contractual relationship with the county. So the bullet point there is off. The idea here was to have a creative session, whether we do it as part of a study session, we do it as part of a board meeting. I think what Director Bernstein's proposing is a good discussion to have, which is how can we fundamentally change the way we deliver EMS services to improve service to our community members, while recognizing that well over, I think 90% of our calls for service are medical in nature. But I don't wanna get into I guess where I'm opposed to, I'm not sure where it came from, the contractual relationships with the county. The discussion I had with the chief, at least it might get captured incorrectly here, was more around there are things we can do irrespective of the contract with the county, and we should be exploring what those things are, not how we can improve the relations with the county contract. We have no control over that. We never will. That's a great excuse for not doing something.
Director Jones, if I just.
Yes,
To try and help
got it.
you all focus on your own policies. So Director Bernstein's asked this be considered at a future meeting. I think he gave a pretty clear explication of what it is that he wants to put on the agenda. I think you should focus your discussions now on whether or not you want to vote on whether to do that
Put
or
it
not.
on the
If
agenda.
you decide you want to put it on an agenda, seems to me a separate question is, on which agenda? Should it be on tomorrow's special emergency meeting, or a general regular meeting a few months from now, or at a study session, but that's different from the the question under your policies, which is, are you in favor of Director Bernstein's proposal?
Thank you, Chief. So is there a motion to put this item on the agenda?
And move we put this item on the agenda.
I'll check in there.
Motion been made, second by Rob,
Me,
Virginia,
yeah.
to place this item on our regular calendar agenda. Michelle, can you get over?
And is the agenda item gonna be listed as it is on the
It's
proposed?
fine as it is.
Yeah,
I'm proposing
it's
it
just
as it's
good.
listed.
Okay, thank you. Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion's carried. We move on to the next one.
So we're gonna talk about what agenda? I think.
Yeah, I mean, under your rules, what would happen now is that the chief
Chief
would
and the
decide, and the president will
We-
meet to agendize things. If you vote to have a special meeting some point, I have no legal objections to you discussing it now if that's what you'd like to do, but
No,
it's
we don't.
not exactly how you
No.
done this in the past.
Right,
I wasn't
It's
pushing.
the reason that policy, just to educate people, was set up that way was to give the chief the opportunity to work with the president to determine when staff would have the appropriate material ready to help the board hold censorship. And not be arbitrary about just picking dates that don't align to the staff availability to actually prepare for that discussion.
so whenever, go ahead.
To back up that comment, I think it's important that staff does present something, because we don't know ourselves what's optimal, what's done elsewhere, so I think a staff report would be very important in this, and it would take some time to do a little research and present and so forth.
Well, it's gonna, it now is back in the hands of the chief to determine when.
There's not a process.
This item will come up, on this board's agenda. And so we'll leave it at that and both the president, which right now is myself, it could come up next year.
I'm sure our deputy chief will solve this before the chief gets back.
Then we can solve this before the chief get back.
We're gonna be fine. So tomorrow.
Right. Okay, so, if there's no more questions on that one, I think everybody's clear about how we're proceeding on that. Thank you, Steve. Second item is from Virginia,
Yeah.
to discuss, good.
Oh, no, go ahead, Rob. You wanna introduce, I mean, basically, I wanted to invite the executive director of the San Francisco Creek Joint Powers Authority, Margaret Bruce, to just give a presentation about what the JPA does, who's involved with it. I mean, I don't think we've ever really had that information at a fire board, and I think it might be actually kind of timely right now. I mean, certainly the issue of the creek has been in the news with the difference of, of what the difference between what Menlo Park wants and what Palo Alto wants, and, you know, in the JPA, there are three jurisdictions,
Yeah,
within the fire district that are on the JPA, right? It's Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, what was the third one? Well, at least two, with Menlo Park,
The county.
yeah, the county. So maybe that's the third, but they're pretty, and the creek affects so much of what we do, and I just thought it would be a good idea to have the executive director introduce herself to us and, you know, just do a presentation and have us ask questions, and that's actually, from a follow-up, this is a follow-up to a meeting that Chief Lorenzen and I had with her. I can't even remember, it's probably like about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So that, and it doesn't matter to me when y'all wanna put it on there, but I do think it's a relevant topic.
I move that we put this on the future agenda.
Okay, I'll second that.
can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
call for the question.
Okay, now,
No, he
the
wants to ask a question.
question about,
That's what it is.
if she
call for
does
the
the
question.
if she does the presentation, can we ask her questions?
That's what I'm hoping, because
Well, cause I just.
we're so new to this.
No, that's
Let
fine.
him finish what you gotta say.
No, I just want to be able to ask, because I have many questions about the creek,
Yeah,
like hundreds of questions about the creek.
that's what I hope,
We're
Ron.
not gonna get into discussion.
Okay, yeah,
He's-
yeah.
he's
So
just stating
Gary-
what
As
he
long as we
wanted.
can
Let's just move
not
on.
just have a presentation, but to be able to have a discussion with her and find out some things that,
So-
some things have been in the paper that.
So this will be
Yeah.
so this will be a future item that the
Yeah.
chief will determine when to prioritize to bring back to the board for discussion. So all in favor,
You want to do a roll call?
I'll do a roll call. Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Swanton?
Hi,
Director Jones?
aye. Okay, motion carried. New proposed agenda items, are there any new proposed agenda items? Chuck?
Yeah, I think we need to have a agenda item where we discuss the response times that are showing up now. Where we're not making our targeted goals.
So agenda item to discuss response time.
Yeah,
That's just
as
a
reported, I just to be clear, as reported in
report.
the chief's fire response analysis.
Virginia?
Oh, no, I mean, that's just to put it on the next agenda, under proposed agenda.
Proposed
So,
agenda
maybe-
item.
There's no discussion at all, it's just noted on the
Just
list.
noted.
Yeah,
So nothing? Okay, any other items? Proposals tonight? Okay, we'll move on then to reports and requests, committee reports. Emergency preparedness, pretty much we have discussed,
Right.
beat that one around. Rob, do you have anything else?
no, I don't think.
Okay, facilities. Gary?
I think similar, we've discussed everything that was discussed at facilities, which was approved by the consent calendar.
Human resource,
no meeting, nothing to report.
finance,
And finance, we also discussed everything that was contemplated and discussed in finance, that the board has to approve had to approve the California $580,000. That was reviewed. at finance committee.
liaison reports, town of Atherton.
The Town of Atherton's meeting is tomorrow. There was an item that I think the chief updated on from the prior meeting before the last one, about them debating whether the Atherton Council should have a liaison to ADAP or not. And just to update the board, the council did not agree to have a liaison to ADAP. They believe it's a staff function to allow staff to coordinate with a volunteer community group and not a board topic. And that's the only update I have because there are meetings tomorrow.
The city of East Palo Alto, I attended the city council meeting, last month, couple weeks ago. And the main hot issue on the agenda was parking for the city of East Palo Alto. And it was quite lively, I should say. And the meeting went on to around 12 o'clock, started at 6:30. And this council decided to punt the idea and devote at least the first reading of it until September after they come out of break in August. There were a lot of people there voted in favor of the new ordinance, and others voted was there talking against the ordinance. So we'll be back at the drawing boards in September to see if the parking ordinance, the new parking ordinance will come into play, or not, because parking has become a major issue along in the streets, because right now there's only about a couple cars two cars cannot pass in some of the streets, simultaneously going down the streets, a lot of the streets, because there's excess cars and.
Means the fire engine and the ambulance can't get through either.
There you go. And that was, some of the people made arguments about that, and so it can become, it is a problem. Especially a disaster prepared, disaster happen, there's gonna be total gridlock on all the streets. Okay, that's my brief report, stay tuned. City of Menlo Park.
Yeah, so, I kind of made the rounds a little bit, since the last meeting, starting with, the National Association for Amateur Radio. That was that national, radio, the ham radio, event that was nationwide. PARA, which is, I guess, the Palo Alto branch of this, was there at Bayfront Park in Menlo Park. But we had a lot of people from our fire district who were a part of that group. So, I mean, the president's from Menlo Park. There were other people from East Palo Alto, obviously Palo Alto, but also from our CERT team. So they were very committed to, going to this event and making sure that radio connects and teaching new people about the importance of communication and, ham radios. And so that was really fun. So I'm glad I was able to stop by there. On July 4th, as Dan mentioned, Menlo Park had its 4th of July parade, and so I was there, and Old Tom was there too. And we hitched a ride on Old Tom with the mayor and his wife, or his family, and the city manager of Menlo Park, Justin Murphy. They had a great time, and oh my gosh, the turnout was really great. The weather was really great. I mean, so many people had fun. Menlo Park had this little circus, so it was, I don't know, probably a few hundred people were out there, right? So anyway, that was a success, and we had some of our other fire engines. I can't remember which one. I think E6 was there, but anyway, we had a strong presence, and people were very happy that the fire district was well represented. Well, I'm gonna give my report to Robert, because this kind of goes with July 8th, the Menlo Park City Council meeting. So, which I had to do remotely because I was actually in Austin for a family emergency. So, I was gonna go to their city council meeting to make public comment about the design part for Santa Cruz Avenue near Left Bank and Bistro Vita, kind of closer to El Camino, because the city council at the prior meeting decided to keep it closed off. So, we were concerned about access to the areas should new development happen, and also water supply. That was something that the chief and I discussed with the city manager and the mayor at one point. So I was able to at least make a public comment about how our, what we would like is when they're going through the design phase and looking at design concepts, that safety was at the forefront of, what they should be thinking about, because that would be important to us. And so that, at the time I introduced Gage also as the new fire marshal, who happened to be in the council chambers and also made a comment as well along the same line. Do you want to add anything? Gage, about-
Virginia, just your report.
Oh, okay, so, okay, yeah,
So,
so.
no,
so-
we just need to stay on top of it.
Yeah, so so that was good. And then actually that night, I guess that afternoon, we found out that our task force was gonna be deployed to Austin. And I happened to be there, so I actually met them at the airport. And I'm just glad, Dan, that we were able to get people out there. So thank you and Chief Wardinger for just coordinating all of that, because everything was so last minute, right? And very stressful, just getting a flight out to Austin, and they were trying to figure out, should they land in San Antonio? And they couldn't go there, so they ended up landing in Austin, and I met them at the airport shortly before midnight and around that time, and with the five people and the 2 dogs, so. You know, people at the airport were very thankful that we were there, because the flooding had already started, obviously on July 4th, and it was actually gonna get worse over time, which it did. So I guess our folks are still there, right, and the team is still there. So that's,
City of Middleborough.
that's,
Okay,
yeah,
All right.
and in my report here, the director report.
okay.
Thank you.
We,
Nothing to report on district.
yeah, I don't have anything additional for, I don't have anything else to report. San Mateo County pre-medical, pre-hospital, who was that?
We did not meet. There was no meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
San Francisco Creek,
No, nothing except for that agenda item.
okay, reports, requests from directors. Any,
This is by way of report, we've talked about it before, and it's actually a note of appreciation. I thought the fireworks situation was much better this year than it has been in past years. It wasn't perfect. The July 4th itself started maybe around 6, 7 o'clock and went probably to 1:32 in the morning, a couple outliers at 3 in the morning. But that was much better than in past years where we had weeks beforehand and even a week afterward. I heard, this was a rumor, I heard a rumor that East Palo Alto had issued its first $1,000 citation for fireworks violation. I don't know if that's true, but if it made a difference, I mean, there was a difference, I don't know if that contributed or not. But whatever was done, if the fire district was involved, I don't know what the politics were behind it, but it was much, much improved.
is that a report or request that you asked me
No,
for?
that's my report, I report that things were much better in the district as a result of something.
I didn't think so, Chuck, out where I live.
Okay. I
Uh,
live in the Willows, right next to East Palo Alto.
anything else, Rob?
Yeah, on June 3rd, I continue to sit on the Sheriff's Oversight Committee, established by the Board of Supervisors looking into the conduct of our current elected sheriff. On June 26th, I attended the Redwood City Elks Award ceremony. I was invited by the guest speaker, who was Ron Brooks, an individual that I worked 20-something years with as a narcotics agent and assistant chief of Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. And it was great to see fire engineer Ramirez and meeting his family and congratulating him on the award. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other reports from the requests from the director? If not, then I'll just, I have a brief, president report. Everyone should have this flyer here, that Michelle passed out earlier is a brief, if you look at it, it's for a study session. And it outlines, it gives you suggested, study session topics that have been, the Chief Lorenzen had put together, and gave them before he left. So I'm passing this on to you. We have, thank you, Gary, for your suggestion of topic idea. And so we need to set a date. And so if there's something that you want to add to this list of discussion items, Chief and I will be getting together to go through this, to try to prioritize the list, and then try to pick a date and time to where to try to shoot for to begin to have our first session. Yes.
Yeah.
Rob.
There were two items that were on the chief's report that were outstanding, staff reports. One was the internal controls policy that was on the chief's report, and the Palo Alto Airport expansion water rescue staff report that he's working on. And we already have the electrification already on there, but he's also working on the building too, so I just want to make sure we had him.
What was that other one?
The Palo Alto Airport expansion water rescue.
Robert, are you
Okay.
still contemplating doing a single session, or I thought we had discussed the potential of doing, picking 2 or 3 key topics, doing 2-hour study sessions before board meeting or something, rather than try to pick a day and cover 5 topics?
Well, I think I think the conversation was thrown out there. I think we need to try to get clarity of how the board want to proceed on this. Some people, we just need to talk about that. I know I heard that, conversation from the chief, about that, so we hadn't really brought that idea up to the board. My thought, and I'll go along with whatever the board want to adhere to. I think we need to spend quality time on, if we got right now, there's eight areas. And we can have more than one session. I prefer not to have it meet before a board meeting, because that just kind of, for me, it just will be a little bit too much. I think we need to do something outside of a board meeting date. And we just need to figure that out, and we need to figure out what that time would look like. And I think 2 hours, if we're gonna meet during the week, something like that, and only having 1 or 2 items to discuss, might be appropriate time to set a 2-hour limit. Because anything more than that, it may be taxing on other folks. So if there's any suggestions for that, you need to board members need to say it. If you have a preference, you need to say it. I was hoping to say now, but now would be a good time to so that we can lock that in and move whatever the majority of the board decided they want to do.
My preference would be for you to pick the top 3 or 4 topics out of the list of 8 or 10 and schedule a couple 2-hour increments of study sessions. And not try to do a 6 or 8 hour or 10-hour single session.
And work with the chief to pick out, I think, the topics too.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I did add the Creek JP on here as one of the potential items to discuss.
And then whatever.
Chuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm willing to contribute personal time to this, but I'm not willing to contribute work time to it, where I have to give up going to work. So I think, doing something from 5 to 7 or whatever prior to a board meeting would be the best. Well, it's one of the better times. It could be another time from 5 to 7 or from 7 to 9 or whatever, but or the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, but not in the middle of the workday.
Any other?
And then, I'll agree with Gary, pick like 4 topics, and the other ones that you've also identified, move them to just the regular agenda items. So we could, say.
I don't think a lot of these are worthy of study session topics. I think they should just be board agenda topics. I think some of these are worthy of.
Well, that'd be up to,
to Robert to.
Yeah, leave it to the chief of
Let-
Robert, so
Yeah.
I'm not saying throw away the others,
No.
prioritize
No,
the
no.
3 for your study sessions, put the others on regular agenda.
But you make this.
I prefer that my mode of operation is always to engage, involve, at least the five of us in deciding what is a priority. Because what I may pick may not necessarily be your priority. And I think what the chief and I can do is to, once we, like I say, got 8 items here, and if there's a few more to trickle in before he gets back, we'll put this on the list, put them on the list, and we'll send that out to you. And then have this, so-called, we got a democratic process still working in this country to decide as a group, which is more important for us, as a beginning topic.
For what it's worth, my preference is the first 3 topics.
Well, you would get a list, so I know,
So you go put a survey out, I mean, I don't know, I'm not understanding what you're
well,
proposing. You can have, do a
if-
survey monkey proposal, we can rank them.
it doesn't have to be a survey monkey, probably it could be, I don't know how to work that out, maybe Michelle does. What I'm saying is that those may be your first 3, and then, and Rob may have some other 3. So, but I think it's important for everybody to just kind of decide, what it is, without spending more time tonight trying to take that, if you want to take that survey tonight, we can spend the next hour trying to get to that point. But I think a more logical way will be to send you, the entire list, because there may be another 1 or 2 come through, and then people just make their own choices, and then send that back to a focal, centralized person, the chief if you want, or Michelle, and then we'll analyze it once we get back, and then pick at that point. That's one thing I'm thinking. It may not be a perfect system, but I think it's a fair system.
If you want a democratic process, I'd recommend you do a survey and have the board members rank their priority topics. And put a score on them and determine it that way versus this ongoing intermittent conversation where we're updating the chief. And then the chief's putting it on paper and then it's coming back here. And we're in a circular motion of doing the same thing over and over.
No disrespect for you. This is the first time this circulation has started. I've been in communication with the chief, on
We've
this,
been
but
talking,
we
Robert,
have.
at these meetings.
Listen to what I'm saying first before we comment, if you don't mind. I don't mean to get confrontational to you, but it disturbs me when I trying to, because what you just said is what I just proposed. And so I'm just a little annoyed at this point in time. So if you don't mind, let me be annoyed because I can get over it. I got my pants on, so I'm okay. But after tonight, you will get a survey, you will get a list, and hopefully you will respond to it and you will get it back to us. And from there, we will actually, the chief and I will sit down and analyze it and pick the top 30.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Could you please, when you're ready to talk to the chief about how you're gonna do that, include me in that conversation? I'm a
Absolutely.
little nervous about what you're describing as a electronic meeting.
Is it Brown Act
Brown
problem?
Act.
Sounds like
Sure.
so just let me, I'm sure I can help you figure out a way to get to where you wanna get.
Absolutely.
But
All right.
agenda
You
is,
do this for a living.
agenda is
Thank you.
not, is excluded by the Brown Act, so you can have that discussion on the agenda.
Well, I just would like to be part of the discussion of how you're
To
doing it,
make
make sure that
sure.
you're complying with it.
Okay.
Appreciate your space.
All right. If there's no other, I'm done. If everybody else is done, then I call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Very good.